Hello and welcome back to r/entitled parents. And if you're new here, I hope you enjoy.
Hippity hoppity, you damaged my property. Bippity boppity, I'm calling the coppity. Bippity boppity boo, they're taking your kids too. I apologise in advance for the length. This happened shortly after college. My mum is a retired disabled woman who now owns her house on a quiet residential cul-de-sac. She has lived there longer than anyone else. Her neighbourhood has designated parking spaces at the end of the cul-de-sac, all with the addresses of each house painted in the parking space. My mum doesn't get out much, so I use her designated parking space. At the time, we lived in the same city, and I visited her to bring groceries, fix broken things, cook for her, etc. My mum parked her car in the backyard of her house, since she went out so little. Mum kept busy by gardening, or baking, or buying cookies for the children on the street. That's so wholesome. Mum's neighbour, Ivy, never parked well. Whenever I stopped by, her car was always parked so close to my car that I had to park on the curb. I wouldn't have cared about Ivy's terrible parking, but for two things. One, she had 4 or 5 kids and had parties almost every weekend, leaving trash in Mum's yards. 2, I also loved my car, a 2016 metallic ice blue Dodge Challenger Hellcat. The first car I had ever purchased brand new. I washed that car once a week, detailed the interior, and had rules against eating, drinking, or even leaving trash in my car. It was my pride and joy. Mum had called the police throughout Ivy's residence because of the parties. Ivy's guests would fill up the cul-de-sac with their cars, obstructing traffic, and get into loud drunken fights at and after midnight. I often found empty beer bottles, empty condom wrappers, cigarette butts, and empty crack baggies on the fence between the properties, mostly on Ivy's side of the fence. This is all important information. One Saturday, while having dinner at Mum's house, I heard a loud crash and my car alarm went off. I ran outside to see Ivy's older model Honda Accord back out of her parking space and speed down the street. Ivy's Accord had a dent from the front bumper to the door and the headlight had popped out. I approached my Challenger with trepidation and screamed in anguish at what I saw. My car, my beautiful 3-week-old car with less than 500 miles on it, had a dent, stretching from the passenger's door to the front bumper, and the right front wheel was tilted at a 30-degree angle. I was livid and in anguish as I called the police, filed an online claim with my insurance, and arranged for a tow truck to take my damaged car to the dealership. The estimated cost of the repairs came out at $3,400. Total cost of the repairs was actually $6,500. I had a low insurance deductible of $100, but my car was parked and Ivy owed for the damages. For 2 weeks, I knocked on Ivy's door or waited for her to come home. She stopped driving her damaged Accord and either rented or borrowed a Ford Fusion. When she was home, she didn't answer the door. When she wasn't, she stayed away until my rental car, a Dodge Charger, left Mum's parking space. I left a note on Ivy's door for her to call me, but only received harassing calls from restricted phone numbers or people blaring air horns in my ear when I answered. Now, the revenge. About 2 weeks after the accident, Ivy's children came to Mum's house for some cookies. I noticed that 2 of them had bruises around their eyes. If Ivy hadn't hit my car, I still would have done what I did, but maybe not as underhandedly. I had Mum take pictures with and of the children, but waited until the next party striked. Ivy had a party that night or the night after. Mum called me to let me know and I installed an app onto my phone that gave me a fake phone number. I called 911 and reported the party. There's a loud party at 1007 Mountain Drive and I'm worried because the children are around and there's all these drunk adults. Please hurry. Mum called to let me know the police had arrived. I drove to her house, stopping by the grocery store first, so that appeared to be the reason, and saw Ivy and her boyfriend, Bane, sitting in the back of a squad car. From a news broadcast that night, I found out that Bane had warrants out for his arrest. Initially, the charges were disorderly conduct and disturbing the peace. However, Mum turned over the photos of the children, anonymously mailing them through the post office with Ivy's address and name as the return address. Less than a week later, Ivy and Bane were charged with abuse charges. I think Bane was charged with more severe charges, as well as for abusing Ivy's daughter. Either way, the children ended up in foster care, and Ivy and Bane ended up in prison. So to recap, my car was hit by such a foul witch. Being a pro, I played a snitch. Her children had bruises, she had no excuses. My plan went along well without a hitch. On to our next story. My mother gets mad at me and my girlfriend because she doesn't respect our privacy. This happened some time ago when my girlfriend and I had made the mistake of letting my mother live with us for some time. We did so in the hope that she will help with some work to fix the relationship between me and my mother and my girlfriend and my mother, and also in the hope that my mother gets to, like her after all. Now, we should not have done that at all, as it backfired horribly and made everything worse. I admit this mistake, though it probably just sped up the inevitable, cutting contact. Eva and I are both 18. My mother always hated her. Eva is of foreign ancestry. Her foreign-born family members are all Muslims, and she has a skin condition, vitiligo, on every imaginable part of her body. My mother finds this absolutely unacceptable and disgusting. I, on the other hand, find it absolutely gorgeous. Now, onto the story. During the summer, we both slept in our underwear. My mother thought that she was entitled to spy on us when we're sleeping, and did so only a few days in. I don't know what exactly happened during the night, but I can only imagine her face when she saw us, especially Eva, who she finds disgusting, in full glory. The next morning she told me, I woke up before Eva did, that she is very uncomfortable with us being so sexual and exposing ourselves. When I asked her what she meant, she said, "It's just that you should not expose me to your bodies, it's making me uncomfortable." Then I asked her yet again, because A, I'm stupid, and B, she didn't properly answer my question. "Mother, just cover it up next time when you're sleeping." Finally, I realised what she meant. "Well, how about you just mind your own business and don't snoop around?" My mother replies, "Don't talk to me like that, it's just weird how she looks, and she should not subject anybody to it." Insert my petty girlfriend Eva. Not that it's a bad thing, it's actually a good thing, of course. She walks into the kitchen the way she was sleeping, fully aware of the conversation. "See, she shouldn't be doing this, it's inappropriate and disgusting." Eva, "So you're watching us sleep? Being you, I'd keep my mouth shut." Me, "Well, what will you say now? It's one thing sleeping in underwear. However, what you did, Mum, was way worse." My mother then didn't say anything, but I knew that she was mad. Eva, being the petty girlfriend that she is, then intentionally walked around in shorts and tank tops, meant specially to annoy the hell out of my mother. My mother, however, never commented on it again. Eva also told me that she overheard most of mine and my mother's conversations, so since the incident, we always locked our room for the night. We kicked my mother out because of a much worse incident some months later, although I know you're probably thinking we should have done so after this incident. Now we are fully no contact. And our last story today. Am I the antagonist for refusing to take in my father's daughter? My father cheated on my mother and got another woman pregnant. Mum immediately filed for divorce. He went on to marry the other woman. My dad didn't have much custody of me when I was little. He was nice and tried really hard, but my mum was my primary custodian and there is nothing that I wouldn't do for her. I guess the fact that he always disrespects my mother and acted like she was the reason he cheated just made me hate him. My mother also strictly told my father that I am not to have any contact with his wife or child. This happened when I was 5. I am now 20. Right now, I don't have any family except for my father, with whom I've cut all contact. He didn't come to my mum's funeral, and that was the last straw for me. A few months ago, my father's daughter, Tracy, contacted me. Turns out that she had lost both her parents to the pandemic. She was about to go into foster care and begged me to help her. I told her very politely that I do not want to have any contact with her and that she cannot possibly expect me to take care of her when I'm just a broke college student. She told me that she had plans and she would work and all I would have to do is not let her go into a foster home. She told me that she'll take care of herself. She asked me to help her as I am her sister. As I mentioned, I have no clue about this person. I don't even know if what she was suggesting was legally possible. In the end, I told her that I wasn't in any position to help her, and I don't know her, and I told her that while we do have the same father, I don't consider him to be my father, and I don't consider her to be my sister. I wished her luck, but also firmly told her that I do not wish to have any contact with her. After that, I ignored any attempt she made to contact me. She has recently started trying to contact me again. I had some glimpse at the messages, and she alternates between calling me a monster or heartless to how awful foster homes are. I haven't responded. Am I the antagonist? No antagonist here. She's a scared 14 to 15-year-old in foster care, and you're the only option she can see out of it. It sucks, but you're not wrong. You don't have to have a relationship with her, and it's not like you were in any position to take care of her. It's a sucky situation, but it's probably best if you ask her to stop messaging you, and if she doesn't, block her. I understand she's going through a lot, but it doesn't give her the right to take it out on you, a stranger. No antagonists here. The kid probably has a whole fantasy relationship with her sister in her head. I know I did about my much older brothers, that they would rescue me from our father, that they loved me, that one day I was going to live with them. OP is in no position to parent this kid, but it's a bitter dose of truth for kid sis. Mental Nothings thinks OP is the antagonist. My plans are to take my brother with me the second he asks. I know he has issues, but I'm 100% sure him and I could figure it out together. My parents refused to get him help, and like me, I'm pretty sure he has ADHD, and most likely has high functioning autism. My parents also have their own problems they're trying their best to fix. I never understood how siblings could just leave their younger ones without trying to help. I'm sorry. No antagonist here, but I'm going to tell you something you definitely don't want to hear. Your dad cheated on your mum, and that was a bad move on his part. Even stupider that he would try and blame it on her. Your mum messed up too though. You say you had little contact with your father, and then you say that your mum forbid any contact to his wife and other child. She knew that meant she was limiting contact between you and him. That literally meant you couldn't have a room in their home, no holidays together, etc. She alienated your father, and this girl is your sister, whether you want to recognise it or not. She didn't cheat on your mum, your dad did. And I'm not saying you should take her in, because not doing so is your choice and your right. I do think it's time to start critically thinking about why you worship one parent and denounce the other. Your mum may have been great, but she wasn't perfect, and it's unhealthy to idolise someone so unquestionably. Not the antagonist here. This is so sad. You're both innocent in this situation with no control over what happened to you. I can understand why you feel the way you do, but I don't think you should have to take on an enormous responsibility. I'd hope you can remember that she is no more responsible for this situation than you are. It's so sad that you're both left to clean up a mess you did not create. Just remember she's only 15, and your father's mistakes are his and his alone, not hers. If you respond to her at any point, please be kind. Yeah, it's like you're almost scolding her, or you're just following your mum's wish of forbidden to contact your sister, which is just, I think it's beyond insane. No antagonist here. I don't blame her for doing whatever it takes to get away from foster care, even if it is contacting someone she doesn't know. I also don't blame you for turning her down. That is a big commitment for someone your age. You shouldn't be guilted in something like that for someone you don't even know. Thistlepatch agrees. Thank you. I'm horrified by the people suggesting this is something OP should do and trying to guilt her into it. She doesn't know this girl, and she's a college student without parents supporting her, which means she's full-time college and working. I've been in that position, and there's no way she can take care of a stepsister, even if the kid is an angel, and teenagers never are. Really? There's no antagonist here, but OP's instincts say she can't do this. She knows the position she's in is much better than anyone on Reddit, and none of us should be telling her that she needs to reconsider her decisions. AJ Fast 143 says, "You're the butthole." Yeah, I said it. What your father did, it is not the fault of your half sister. Yeah, you said you are a broke college student. Fine, but you are legally an adult. Do you even know how foster care works? You are thinking you're punishing your father, but you're possibly opening a window to ruin your half sister for life. You can avoid her. If she promises that she will take care of herself, that means at least you should give it a try. What if the tables were turned? That's the thing, that's the reality. It's sad, and hopefully it doesn't happen too often, but that's the power play that the primary custodian can have. They can literally brainwash and indoctrinate you to idolize and worship them. You only see one side of the story, or you don't get the full context to certain situations or arguments, or the way that things happened, right? So like, I had a narcissistic mother, and obviously from her perspective and from my perspective, like, you know, every guy was bad, and like dad was bad, all her boyfriends are bad. But then as I grew up, I, you know, saw the abuse that she would deliver to these people as well. And it's not to say that these people were great, moral, outstanding citizens, but it's to say that, you know, there's a give and a take. They were both as bad as each other. It wasn't just one-sided. And I got to see that with my little sister as well. My little sister was just, at one point she said to me, she was crying, she said to me, "Oh, why does everyone hate our mum?" But it's really just stuff that we'd been like brainwashed and taught into us. So that was a big red flag when she said she was forbidden to see her sister by her mum. Wow, terrible. It's not that you don't think she's your sister or you don't know her, it's that you were never given the opportunity to know her. Oh, hi. Just to be clear, that's not to say I think she's responsible for looking after her sister, but I think as a human, she should be responsible for having a bit of more understanding and empathy or compassion for someone, regardless of whether they're your family or not. And maybe, you know, opening our eyes to the kind of manipulation she may have experienced, because people do that, parents do that, separated parents do that. They play the children against each other. They use them as power players, as little trophies to get back at one another, which is pathetic, but they just do. It's just a reality. That's what the whole subreddit is about, right? Trying to use their children as power players. It's disgusting, but it happens. OP doesn't owe her anything financially or physically, but when you meet a new person or a stranger, you at least owe them a chance. Goodness gracious me. Have a nice day.